This is the excitement time. It's almost ready. Maestro will come in there. I'm going to try to make some pictures of him. This is excitement time. Loosen up the hands. Get ready. When I'm working, I'm not really thinking. I'm feeling the play. I'm photographing the moments that don't necessarily spell opera. They spell performance at its best. In English, I would introduce myself. Hello, my name is Michal Daniel. I'm a photographer. In Czech, I'd do it. Dobrý den, já jsem Michal Daniel, fotograf. People call me Misha because that's what I'm called when I'm not in trouble at home. Misha is an endearing way of saying Mike. I think that the reason that I ended up in theater making live entertainment images is because it's so close to real life. I wanted to be a photographer ever since I became one in the US Air Force. And after I got out of the Air Force, I was interested in documentary photography, meaning the school of fraction of a moment and be there. The closest that came to what I wanted to do was photojournalism. But in photojournalism, you also are, in a way, forced to answer questions. And I'm much more interested in asking questions with my work. In theater, the questions that are in the image have to do with what does the music sound in an opera? What I have to evoke with those images, a questioning in the viewer that brings them to the theater and fills the seats. We are at the Ordway in St. Paul for the Minnesota Opera production of Cinderella. Tonight is going to be a tech dress rehearsal, meaning the company is going to run through the opera. There is going to be no audience, and this is my chance to photograph the show for press and for archives and so on and so forth.
What sets Misha apart is he's a photographer, but he's also a theater man. He really understands it. And he also has this knack for finding that moment on stage. He will sometimes come up with compositions in his shots that I wouldn't spot sitting in the theater necessarily. And it's because he's running around all the time when he's taking his photos. He has an eye for that dramatic shot, and he will do anything to get it.
I feel the light, feel the moment, feel the actors, feel the energy. And there are moments that happen where you know that it's just summed up right there. And it's always somewhat scary, and I'm full of trepidation and butterflies in my stomach, just like the performers, because it's live. Whatever they do there is going to be just like real life. So I'm scared out of my wits. If I, mess up, we don't have publicity. And it's like that every production.
One challenge of opera production photography is that it doesn't always look that pretty close up. Singers have their mouths gaping open all the time. To capture a really interesting image of somebody singing, you have to have an artist who can see the dramatic moment on stage, but also kind of catch the moments when somebody's not singing. And he's a genius at capturing those moments.
I'm originally from Czechoslovakia, now Czech Republic. My father was a filmmaker over there and a teacher at FAMU, the film school. He got an Oscar for A Shop on Main Street as a Best Foreign Picture. His work was very interesting because, of course, I was on set with him a number of times. I was in a couple of his movies, and that was very interesting. I had a love-hate relationship with movies, which is probably why I'm in theater. It was the doing it over and over again and the pretense of it. In a theater, there is a whole different atmosphere between the viewers and the performers. Our responses to their performance is just as important as their performance to us. And I absolutely adore that atmosphere, that you can hear a pin drop at times, and this massive amount of people are creating this fabulous thing together. I've worked for many theaters, I would say dozens at this point. I started with the Junlun Theater, which is now defunct, unfortunately. That was my favorite theater of all times because they took so many chances and they let me do whatever I wanted. If it meant getting on the stage with them, then I got on the stage with them. I was working for the Best Picture and they knew it. The images that they were creating on stage and the kind of ideas they were bringing to theater were so edgy. Even though they may not have resulted in my all-time favorite images, it is definitely the most fun I ever had making pictures. From that, I landed the job at the Guthrie, and that actually was like a catapult into the world. That was during the era of film, so I shot a lot of film, and that ended up on the covers of various magazines. What happened then was American Theater Magazine did an article on the most influential theater photographers in the United States. They listed 6 people and they put me in that article. Well, at that point, I got a ticket, went to New York, and I landed Public Theater. And as soon as that happened, then the doors opened. I've been so lucky to work with the greatest people I've ever met, and some of the people that are my absolute heroes. Most notably would be Meryl Streep, Mother Courage. I've always loved her work. I had a chance to go into her dressing room and have her approve or disapprove about 40 photos that were picked. And that was a fantastic moment. Of course, I was scared that she was going to hate the pictures and kill them all. But she, of course, kept many images where she's sweaty and doesn't look at all her best and so on, which I was afraid she would kill, even though they are very telling and important for the production. The Czechoslovakia in Transition series is very important to me because being originally from Czechoslovakia, I sat here in the United States for 22 years looking backwards thinking, well, if it ever were to change, what would happen? Once the wall fell and Czechoslovakia had its Velvet Revolution, I was just dying to go back and photograph it because I felt that the people who lived there couldn't possibly photograph it from the same point of view that I have. And so I went back and I wanted to record what would disappear, and the first beginnings of the transformation from that communism to capitalism. It's still the most cohesive work that I've done in the genre of photojournalism, as it were. In other words, those pictures ask questions a lot less than my other photographs do. I am trying to show you what is there. There are, of course, some question pictures in there, but I wanted to do descriptions. This is what this looks like, this is what that looks like, this is what that looks like. It is really important to me because it is my history. Ooh, got a wet one on this one. It's always a question, is it going to be a 2 t-shirt day or a 3 t-shirt day, you know? So far, 2. It looks like 3 to me by the time I get finished.
The thing about opera is a lot of people think that it's going to be about the fat lady singing. This is a myth. And the best thing that can debunk a myth is an image like Misha can produce that shows that this is a really vibrant, interesting, fascinating, dramatic art form.
Shut it down. Take it home. It's gonna get busy tonight. The images have to be to the press and on the web for preview articles, review articles, and so on before the audience actually enters the house. So I have to give the press enough time to have the images, so I have to hustle as fast as I can. I'm gonna shoot the second half, but as soon as I'm finished with it, I'm out of here like a bat out of hell. And by then I have to be packed up with the computer and everything. There isn't going to be any time for that then. It's going to be run to the car, drive home, edit like a maniac. The greatest satisfaction in photography for me, there are actually 2 moments. The moment when I press that shutter button, I think I have it. And then there's a second moment that's very important, and that's during the editing process, where I'm going through the images on the computer, and all of a sudden this thing pops up. Man, is this amazing.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.